Take me on your horse, and I'll give you something no woman can give you, Apache woman begged. The sun was sinking low in the sky, turning the wide desert into a sea of gold and red. The air was dry and warm, and the wind carried small clouds of dust across the empty trail. Thomas Hale rode slowly on his tired brown horse, his eyes scanning the horizon. He had been traveling for hours, carrying letters and small packages between two distant towns. It was quiet out here, the kind of quiet that made a person feel both peaceful and uneasy at the same time. Thomas was not a brave man by nature. He did his job because it paid well enough to keep food on his table and a roof over his head. He liked simple things, warm meals, a good night's sleep, and the feeling of being useful. The frontier was dangerous, but he believed that if he stayed on the main paths and avoided trouble, he would be fine. That belief was tested as he saw a figure standing in the middle of the trail. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. The heat often played games with a traveler's eyes, but as he rode closer, the shape became clearer. It was a woman standing still, her long, dark hair moving slightly in the wind. She did not wave or shout. She simply stood there, waiting. Thomas slowed his horse, his hand moving closer to the small knife he kept at his side. His heart began to beat faster. People did not usually stand alone in the desert unless something was wrong. When he was close enough to see her face, he noticed how tired she looked. Her clothes were worn and dusty, and her eyes were sharp, watching him carefully. She looked strong, but also afraid in a quiet, hidden way. "Please," she said, her voice steady but low, "take me with you." Thomas blinked, surprised. He did not expect her to speak so clearly. He looked around, half expecting others to appear from behind the rocks or hills. The land was empty. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Naeli," she said. "I have nowhere else to go." Thomas hesitated. He had heard stories about people being tricked on the road, but he had also seen what happened when someone truly needed help and did not get it. He looked at her dusty feet, her tired shoulders, and the way she held herself, as if she had been walking for a very long time. "Why are you out here alone?" he asked. She did not answer right away. Her eyes moved across the land as if she was listening for something only she could hear. "My people were taken away," she finally said. "I escaped. If I stay here, they will find me." Thomas swallowed. He knew what she meant without her saying more. The land was full of conflict. Soldiers, settlers, and tribes were all trying to survive in their own way, and often people got caught in the middle. "I'm just a rider," he said. "I can't protect you from anyone." "I don't need a fighter," Naeli said. "I need a way forward." Her words stayed with him. He looked at his horse, then back at her. The horse was strong but already tired. Taking another person would slow them down. Still, something in her eyes made it hard to turn away. He sighed and nodded. "You can ride behind me," he said. "But we can't stop for long." Naeli's face softened with relief. She stepped forward carefully, as if afraid he might change his mind. With some effort, she climbed onto the horse behind him, holding the saddle tightly. They started moving again, the sound of hooves mixing with the whisper of the wind. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by distant hills and scattered rocks. The sky slowly darkened, and the air grew cooler. Thomas could feel Naeli's hands holding the back of the saddle. She kept her distance, not leaning on him. He respected that and did not turn around. As night fell, the stars came out bright and countless. Thomas had always liked the stars. They made him feel small, but in a good way, as if the world was bigger than his worries. They stopped near a group of rocks to rest the horse. Thomas gathered some dry wood and started a small fire. The flames flickered, casting moving shadows on the stones around them. Naeli sat close to the warmth, pulling her worn blanket around her shoulders. Thomas handed her a piece of bread and some water from his pack. She accepted it with a quiet nod. "Thank you," she said. "You don't have to thank me," he replied. "I don't even know if I'm doing the right thing." She looked at him carefully. "Sometimes the right thing is just not leaving someone behind." Her words surprised him. He had never thought of himself as someone who did the right thing. He just tried to get through each day. After a moment, he asked, "Where are you trying to go?" "Somewhere safe," she said. "Somewhere my family might be." Thomas poked the fire with a stick, watching the sparks rise into the dark sky. "I don't know if I can take you that far," he said. "My job is to deliver these letters and turn back." Naeli looked down at her hands. "Then I will walk when you stop," she said. That simple answer made him feel uncomfortable. The idea of leaving her alone again did not sit well with him. They sat in silence, listening to the night sounds, the distant call of an animal, the soft crackle of the fire, the steady breathing of the horse. After a while, Naomi spoke again. "You ride this land often," she said. "You know the open paths." "I do," Thomas replied. "There are other paths," she said. "Hidden ones, safe ones." He looked at her, curious now. "What do you mean?" "My people have walked this land for many generations," she said. "We know where the water is, where the ground is strong, and where danger hides." Thomas leaned back on his hands. "And you're telling me this because—" "Because if you help me," she said, "I can help you." He thought about the times he had nearly gotten lost, the times he had run low on water, the times he had wished he knew more about the land than just the main trail. "You show me these paths?" he asked. She nodded. "If you want to learn." Thomas looked at the fire again. The flames danced and shifted, never staying the same shape for long. His life felt like that, always moving, never settled. He finally said, "I guess I could use a better map of the world." Naomi smiled just a little. They lay down to sleep near the fire, taking turns staying awake. The night was calm, but the land always carried hidden dangers. As Thomas stared at the stars, he thought about how strange the day had been. That morning he had expected nothing more than a long ride and tired legs. Now he was sharing a fire with a stranger whose life was tied to a much bigger story than his own. In the quiet, he realized something important. He had always believed the land was empty, something to cross and leave behind. But now he saw that it was full of people, memories, and stories, and he had just stepped into one that would change his own. When the morning came, the sky turned pale blue and the cold air made Thomas shiver. Naomi was already awake, watching the horizon. "Do you know where the next town is?" she asked. "Yes," Thomas said, "but it's not close." She nodded. "Then we should start early." They packed up, put out the fire, and climbed back onto the horse. As they rode forward, the trail stretched ahead of them, long and uncertain. Neither of them knew what waited beyond the hills. But both of them felt that turning back was no longer an option. The morning air was cool and fresh as the sun slowly climbed over the distant hills. A soft light spread across the land, turning the rocks and sand into gentle shades of gold and brown. Thomas guided the horse forward, following the narrow trail that wound between low bushes and tall stones. Naomi sat behind him, quiet and alert, her eyes always moving, watching the land as if it were speaking to her in a way Thomas could not yet understand. The horse walked at a steady pace, its hooves making soft sounds against the dry ground. Thomas liked the calm of early morning. It made him feel like the world was clean and new, as if yesterday's worries had been washed away by the night. But he also felt a strange weight in his chest. He knew he had taken on something bigger than just another delivery run. After a while, Thomas broke the silence. "Did you walk far before you found me?" Naomi nodded. "Many hours, maybe more than one day." "I stopped when I could, but I kept moving when I felt afraid." Thomas frowned. "You must be very tired." "I am," she said softly, "but stopping can be more dangerous than walking." He thought about that. He had always believed rest was safety. A warm bed, a locked door, and a full stomach. But out here, things were different. They rode past a dry riverbed where smooth stones lay scattered like forgotten coins. Naomi leaned forward slightly and pointed. "There is water not far from here," she said. "It runs under the ground. If you dig where the ground is darker, you will find it." Thomas looked at her in surprise. "How do you know that?" She smiled. "The plants tell me. They grow differently when water is close." He glanced at the bushes and grass around them. To him, they all looked the same. But now he wondered what he had been missing all this time. They stopped near a group of trees with wide leaves. Thomas dismounted and tied the horse to a low branch. He took out his small shovel and dug where Naomi pointed. After a few minutes, the dry dirt turned damp, and soon, clear water began to seep into the small hole. Thomas laughed, a sound of true joy. "I've been riding this route for years, and I never knew this was here." Naomi watched him with a quiet pride. "The land shares its secrets with those who listen." They filled their bottles and let the horse drink. The animal seemed grateful, lowering its head and making soft sounds as it drank. As they rested, Thomas asked, "What was your home like?" Naomi looked away, her eyes following the wind as it moved through the trees. "It was near the mountains. We had a river nearby. My family fished and grew small gardens. At night, we sat by the fire and told stories." Thomas pictured it in his mind. It sounded peaceful, far from the hard roads and lonely rides he knew. "Do you think you'll see it again?" he asked carefully. Naeli's lips pressed into a thin line. I don't know, the land changes, people change it. Sometimes you can go back and it is not the same. He understood that feeling. The town where he grew up had changed too. New buildings, new faces, old friends gone. They climbed back onto the horse and continued their journey. The land slowly rose into gentle hills. The trail became rocky and Thomas had to guide the horse carefully. At one point he slipped on a loose stone and nearly fell. Naeli quickly leaned forward and grabbed his arm, helping him steady himself. "Thank you," he said, breathing out slowly. She nodded. "You must watch the ground here, the rocks like to move." He smiled at her choice of words. "I'll remember that." As the sun rose higher, the heat returned. The air shimmered and the sky turned a deep blue. They rode through open plains where the wind had nothing to stop it. It pushed against them, carrying the smell of dust and dry grass. In the distance, Thomas spotted a group of riders. His heart tightened. He slowed the horse and looked back at Naeli. "Stay low," he said quietly. Naeli immediately understood. She leaned closer to the horse, pulling her blanket up to hide her face. The riders came closer. There were 3 of them, dressed in rough clothes, their faces hard and tired. They slowed when they saw Thomas. "Where you headed?" one of them called out. "Just delivering mail," Thomas replied, keeping his voice calm. The man's eyes moved to the back of the horse. "You got company?" "Just a traveler who needed a ride," Thomas said. The men looked at each other. One of them rode closer, his eyes sharp and curious. Thomas felt his stomach twist. He placed his hand near his knife, hoping he wouldn't need it. Naeli stayed silent, her head down. After a long moment, the man shrugged. "Be careful out here, it's not safe." Thomas nodded. "It never is." The riders moved on, their figures growing smaller against the wide land. Only when they were far away did Thomas let out the breath he had been holding. "That was close," he said. Naeli lifted her head. "You did well, you stayed calm." "I didn't feel calm," he admitted. "My heart was trying to jump out of my chest." She gave a small smile. "Bravery is not about feeling strong. It is about not running when you feel afraid." They rode on, the land slowly changing again. Tall rocks rose around them, forming narrow paths and shaded areas. The air grew cooler and the sound of wind softened. Naeli pointed to marks on a stone. "These are old signs," she said. "My people use them to show safe paths and places to rest." Thomas leaned closer to look. To him, they looked like simple lines and shapes. But now he knew they carried meaning. "It's like a language," he said. "Yes," Naeli replied, "a language of the land." They stopped in the shade to eat. Thomas shared what little food he had, bread, dried meat, and a few pieces of fruit. It wasn't much, but they were both grateful for it. As they ate, Thomas said, "I always thought the land was something to get across as fast as possible, a space between one place and another." Naeli chewed thoughtfully. "For us, it is a home. Not just the place we sleep, but the place we belong." Her words stayed with him. In the afternoon, clouds began to gather. The sky darkened and the wind picked up. A low sound of thunder rolled across the hills. "We should find shelter," Thomas said. Naeli nodded and guided him toward a small cave hidden behind a group of rocks. They led the horse inside and waited as the rain began to fall. The sound of water hitting the ground was loud and steady. Thomas watched the drops turn dust into dark patches of mud. "I've never been in a storm like this out here," he said. Naeli wrapped her blanket tighter. "The land needs the rain, so do we." They sat together, listening to the storm. It felt like the world outside had disappeared, leaving just the 2 of them and the quiet space between the rain and the rocks. When the storm passed, the air smelled fresh and clean. The land looked different, brighter, alive. They stepped back out into the open, the sun breaking through the clouds. Thomas felt something inside him shift. This journey was no longer just about reaching the next town. It was about learning, listening, and seeing the world through new eyes. As they rode forward again, he realized he was no longer just a rider on a trail. He was becoming a traveler in a story much bigger than his own. The land opened up again as they left the rocky paths behind. Wide fields of dry grass stretched toward the horizon, moving gently in the wind like waves on a quiet sea. The sky was clear, and the sun shone bright, but Thomas felt a growing tension inside him. The farther they traveled, the more he noticed signs of other people, broken branches, old campfires, tracks in the dirt. They were not as alone as the land made them feel. Naeli noticed it too. Her eyes stayed sharp, and she often asked Thomas to slow the horse so she could listen. Sometimes she would close her eyes for a moment, as if trying to hear something beyond sound. "What are you listening for?" Thomas asked once. "The land tells you when someone else is near," she said. "The birds grow quiet, the wind changes, even the ground feels different." Thomas tried to understand, but it still felt like a mystery to him. He trusted her, though. Each time she had warned him before, she had been right. By midday, they reached a small trading stop near a shallow stream. A few wooden buildings stood in a loose circle. There was a place to tie horses, a small shop, and a fire pit in the center. A couple of travelers were already there, resting and talking in low voices. Thomas slowed the horse. "We should get some supplies," he said. "I'm running low on food." Naeli hesitated. "People may notice me." "I'll be careful," he replied. "You can stay close." They dismounted, and Thomas tied the horse to a post. Naeli stayed near him, pulling her blanket tighter around her shoulders. Inside the small shop, shelves held bags of grain, dried meat, and simple tools. The shop owner, a tall man with a tired face, looked up when they entered. "Mail rider," he said. "You're a long way from town." Thomas nodded. "Just passing through." The man's eyes moved to Naeli. He paused for a moment, studying her. Thomas felt his shoulders tense. "Who's she?" the man asked. "A traveler," Thomas said quickly. "She needed a ride." The shop owner grunted but didn't say more. Thomas bought what he could afford and packed it into his bag. When they stepped back outside, he noticed the other travelers watching them. Their looks were not friendly. Naeli kept her head down, staying close to Thomas's side. As they walked back to the horse, one of the men stepped forward. He was broad and tall, with a rough beard and eyes that seemed to judge everything. "You shouldn't be bringing trouble with you," the man said. Thomas stopped. "We're just passing through." The man pointed at Naeli. "She doesn't belong here." Naeli lifted her head and met his gaze. Her eyes were calm but strong. "She belongs wherever she stands," Thomas said, surprising even himself. The man laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You don't know what you're getting into." Thomas didn't answer. He helped Naeli onto the horse and climbed up in front of her. They rode away, feeling the eyes of the trading stop follow them. They didn't speak for a long time. The land stretched wide and open again, but now it felt less peaceful. "You didn't have to say that back there," Naeli said softly. "I know," Thomas replied, "but I meant it." She studied his back for a moment. "Most people don't stand up for someone they barely know." He thought about that. "Maybe I'm tired of just watching things happen." As the afternoon passed, the wind picked up. Clouds began to form again, dark and heavy. The horse slowed, tired from the long ride. They decided to stop near a group of tall rocks that formed a natural wall. Thomas unpacked the food and they sat down to eat. Naeli seemed restless. She kept looking toward the open land behind them. "Something feels wrong," she said. Thomas listened. At first he heard only the wind. Then faintly he heard the sound of hooves. He stood up quickly. "We're not alone." The sound grew louder. 3 riders appeared in the distance, moving fast. Naeli's face tightened. "They followed us." Thomas's heart raced. "We can't outrun them. The horse is too tired." Naeli looked at the rocks. "There is a narrow path behind there. It leads into the hills. They won't be able to ride through it." "Then let's go," Thomas said. They rushed to the horse and climbed on. Naeli guided Thomas toward a small opening between the rocks. The path was narrow and uneven. Thomas had to lean low to avoid hitting his head. The riders reached the rocks just as they disappeared into the path. The trail twisted and turned, rising sharply. Thomas could hear the horse breathing hard. Naeli whispered directions, helping him guide the animal safely. They reached a high ledge and stopped. Below them, they could see the riders searching, frustrated and confused. Thomas let out a slow breath. "That was too close." Naeli placed a hand on his shoulder. "You trusted me. That saved us." They waited until the riders finally gave up and rode away. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in soft colors, they continued through the hills. The land here was quieter, safer. They found a small, flat area near a tree and made camp. Thomas started a fire while Naeli gathered branches. The flames flickered gently and the world felt calm again. "You could have left me back there," Naeli said, "at the trading stop." "I thought about it," Thomas admitted, "but it didn't feel right." "Why?" she asked. He stared into the fire. "Because if I had, I would have been thinking about it for the rest of my life." She nodded slowly. "Then you are stronger than you think." They talked quietly as the night grew darker. Naeli shared stories about her family, about her mother who taught her to read the land and her father who showed her how to find water in the driest places. Thomas told her about his small home in town, his simple job, and how he never thought his life would be anything more than the same road day after day. "You're on a different road now," Naeli said. He smiled. "I guess I am." They took turns keeping watch. The night was still, and the stars shone brightly. As Thomas lay awake, he realized something important. Protecting Naeli was no longer just about helping someone in need. It was about choosing what kind of person he wanted to be. And for the first time in his life, he felt like he was choosing something bigger than just his own comfort. When morning came, he felt ready for whatever the land would bring next. The morning light came slowly, spreading over the hills like a soft blanket. The air was cool, and small drops of water rested on the leaves and stones from the night before. Thomas stretched his arms and stood up, feeling the ache in his back and legs from sleeping on the hard ground. The horse shook its head and stamped its hooves, ready to move again. Naeli was already awake. She stood at the edge of the camp, looking out over the land below. The hills rolled gently into wide valleys, and far in the distance, a thin line of trees followed the path of a river. "That way," she said quietly. "If we follow the high ground, we can stay hidden." Thomas nodded. He trusted her now without question. They packed up their few things and climbed onto the horse. The path Naeli chose was not like the main trails Thomas knew. It was narrow and uneven, sometimes disappearing into tall grass or between rocks. Thomas had to focus carefully, guiding the horse step by step. As they moved higher, the air grew thinner and cooler. The wind carried the smell of pine and wet earth. Birds flew overhead, their calls echoing across the hills. "This place feels different," Thomas said. "It is," Naeli replied. "Not many people come this way. The land is harder, but it protects those who respect it." They rode through a small forest where tall trees reached toward the sky. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating moving patterns on the ground. Thomas felt a strange sense of peace here, like the world had slowed down. At one point, the horse stopped and refused to move. Thomas gently pulled the reins, but the animal stayed still. Naeli leaned forward and looked at the ground. "There is a snake path here," she said. "The horse can feel it." Thomas shivered. He hadn't seen anything, but he trusted her. They guided the horse around the area, moving slowly until they were past. As the day went on, Thomas began to feel tired. The path was harder than the flat trails he was used to. His hands ached from holding the reins, and his eyes burned from watching every step. Naeli noticed. "We should rest soon," she said. They found a small clearing near a group of stones shaped like seats. Thomas tied the horse to a tree and sat down heavily. "I didn't know traveling could be this hard," he said with a tired laugh. Naeli smiled. "The land always asks something from you, strength, patience, or attention." She knelt down and touched the ground, then picked up a small plant with thin leaves. "You can chew this," she said. "It helps with tiredness." Thomas took it unsure, but he trusted her. The taste was bitter, but after a few minutes he felt a little more awake. "You're full of surprises," he said. She shrugged. "My mother taught me many things." They shared their food again, eating slowly. The quiet around them felt deep and calm, broken only by the sound of wind and distant birds. After resting, they continued. The land began to slope downward, and soon they could hear the sound of water. A small river appeared, clear and fast, cutting through the valley. Thomas smiled. "I've never seen water this clean out here." Naeli knelt and dipped her hands into it. "This river is young. It comes from the mountains." They let the horse drink and filled their bottles. Thomas splashed water on his face, feeling refreshed. As they followed the river, they noticed old markings on stones and trees. Naeli stopped and touched one of them. "My people were here," she said softly, "long ago." Thomas felt a quiet respect settle over him. This land was not empty. It carried the memory of those who walked it before. In the afternoon, they spotted smoke in the distance. Thomas felt his stomach tighten. "Someone else is out there," he said. Naeli studied the sky. "It could be a small camp or a village." "Should we avoid it?" Thomas asked. She thought for a moment. "We may need help soon. The horse is tired and you need supplies." They moved carefully, staying near the trees. As they got closer, they saw a small group of homes near the river. Children played near the water and a few adults worked nearby. Thomas felt nervous. He had not planned on meeting more people so soon. They stopped at the edge of the village. A woman noticed them and walked over. "Travelers?" she asked. "Yes," Thomas said. "We don't mean any trouble." The woman looked at Naeli, then back at Thomas. Her face softened. "You both look tired. You can rest here for a while." Relief washed over Thomas. They were guided to a shaded area near a fire. Someone brought them water and simple food. As they sat, people around them spoke quietly, curious but not unkind. An older man approached Thomas. "Not many riders come through here," he said. "The main roads are far from us." "I didn't choose this path," Thomas replied. "I was shown it." The man nodded. "Then you were shown well." Naeli spoke with some of the women, sharing words and stories. Thomas watched her, seeing how her shoulders relaxed for the first time in days. Later, a young boy brought Thomas a small piece of wood carved into the shape of a bird. "For luck," the boy said. Thomas smiled and thanked him. As the sun began to lower, Naeli returned to Thomas's side. "This place is safe," she said, "but we cannot stay too long. My family is still far." Thomas nodded, though part of him wished they could stay. This small village felt peaceful, like a place outside of time. They prepared to leave, thanking the people for their kindness. The woman who had first greeted them placed a small bundle of food into Naeli's hands. "For the road," she said. As they rode away, Thomas looked back at the village until it disappeared behind the trees. "That was nice," he said. Naeli smiled. "Kindness is everywhere, you just have to look for it." The path ahead led into open land again, but now Thomas felt different. He no longer saw the land as something empty or dangerous. He saw it as a place full of life, stories, and quiet connections between people who might never meet again. As evening came, they found a place to camp near the river. The sound of water filled the air, calming and steady. Thomas built a fire and they sat close to its warmth. "You've changed," Naeli said. Thomas looked up. "Have I?" "You listen now," she said. "Before, you only looked at where the road went." He thought about it. "I guess I'm starting to see more than just the next step." They sat in silence for a while, watching the flames. "Naeli," Thomas said, "when this is over, when you find your family, what will you do?" She stared into the fire. "I will stay with them, help them rebuild. Teach the children what my parents taught me." "That sounds like a good life," he said. She nodded. "And you?" He hesitated. "I don't think I can go back to being just a male rider." She smiled gently. "The land has already given you a new path." As the stars came out, Thomas lay back and looked up at the sky. It felt bigger than ever. He realized that this journey was not just leading Naeli home. It was leading him toward a version of himself he never knew existed. And for the first time, the future did not feel like a long, empty road. It felt like a story still being written. The morning came softly, like a quiet promise. The sky was painted with pale colors of pink and light blue, and the river beside their camp flowed gently, making a calming sound that felt like a steady heartbeat of the land. Thomas woke up slowly, listening to the water and the distant calls of birds. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he saw the trees, the fire pit, and Naeli sitting nearby, watching the rising sun. She looked peaceful, but there was something thoughtful in her eyes. "Today feels different," Thomas said as he stood up and stretched. Naeli nodded. "We are close now. My family should be near the big bend in the river." Thomas felt a mix of relief and a strange heaviness in his chest. He had been thinking about this moment for a long time, even if he had not said it out loud. This journey, this shared path, was coming to an end. They packed up quietly. The horse seemed to sense the change too, moving calmly and without its usual impatience. The land around them looked softer here. The grass was greener and the trees grew closer together, their branches forming gentle arches over parts of the path. As they rode, Naeli pointed out signs only she could read. A broken branch tied with grass. A small stack of stones near the riverbank, marks on a tree trunk. "My people leave these," she said, "to let others know we are close." Thomas's heart lifted. "So they really are near?" "Yes," she replied, a small smile forming. The path narrowed and curved along the river. The water sparkled in the sunlight and small fish darted beneath the surface. The air smelled fresh, full of life. After a while, Thomas heard voices, soft at first, then clearer. Naeli sat up straighter. "That's them," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They slowed the horse. Around the bend in the river, they saw a small group of people near the water. Some were washing clothes. Others were gathering plants or watching children play by the shore. Naeli slid off the horse before Thomas could stop her. She stood still for a moment as if afraid to move. Then she took a step forward. A woman looked up and froze. Her eyes widened and she dropped what she was holding. "Naeli," she called out. Naeli ran forward. The two of them met in a tight embrace, holding each other as if they were afraid the moment might disappear. More people gathered around. A man stepped forward, his face filled with emotion. He placed his hands on Nayeli's shoulders, looking at her closely. "We thought we lost you," he said. "I found my way back," Nayeli replied, her voice shaking. Thomas stayed back, watching. He felt like he was standing on the edge of something deeply personal, something that did not belong to him. But he also felt proud in a quiet way to have helped bring this moment into being. After a while, Nayeli turned and walked back toward him. She gestured for him to come closer. "This is Thomas," she said to her family. "He helped me when I had nowhere else to go." The people looked at him with curiosity and gratitude. The man who seemed to be Nayeli's father stepped forward and held out his hand. "You are welcome here," he said. "You walked a hard path for our daughter." Thomas shook his hand, feeling a warmth he had not expected. "I just did what anyone should." They invited him to sit with them. Someone brought food, warm bread, cooked vegetables, and fresh fruit. Thomas ate slowly, enjoying the simple meal and the feeling of being part of something, even for a short time. The children were especially curious about him. They asked about his horse, his travels, and the towns he had seen. "Is the world very big?" one of them asked. Thomas smiled. "It feels big when you're walking alone, but when you meet people along the way, it feels smaller." As the day passed, Thomas noticed how Nayeli moved among her family. She laughed more. Her shoulders were lighter. The tired look he had first seen in her eyes was gone. Later, she walked with him down to the river. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You already did," Thomas replied. She frowned slightly. "I don't understand." "You showed me a different way to see things," he said. "I used to think my life was just a road I had to walk. Now I see it's something I get to choose." She thought about that, then reached into a small pouch tied at her side. She took out a small stone, smooth and flat, with a simple shape carved into it. "My mother made this," she said. "It means path in our language." She placed it in his hand. "So you remember." Thomas closed his fingers around the stone. It felt cool and solid, like something that would last a long time. "I will," he promised. As the sun began to lower, Thomas knew it was time to leave. He had letters to deliver, a job waiting for him, and a life that still needed to move forward. He stood near his horse, feeling the weight of the moment. Nayeli walked up to him. "You don't have to go the same way you came," she said. He smiled. "I don't think I ever could." They shared a quiet moment. No big words, no long speeches, just a look that said more than either of them needed to explain. Thomas climbed onto the horse and turned it toward the open land. As he rode away, he looked back once. Nayeli stood near her family, watching him, the river flowing behind her like a silver line through the land. The path ahead was wide and unknown, but Thomas no longer felt afraid of that. The days that followed were different from any he had known before. He still delivered letters, he still rode long miles under the sun and stars, but now he took different paths. He paid attention to the land. He listened to the wind, watched the birds, and looked for the small signs that told quiet stories. People began to notice. "Thomas never gets lost," someone said in a town one evening. "He always knows where the water is," said another. Thomas would just smile. He carried the small stone in his pocket. When the road felt long or the world felt heavy, he would take it out and run his thumb over the carved shape. It reminded him that every step he took was a choice. One evening, years later, Thomas found himself sitting by a fire near a group of young travelers. They were tired, dusty, and full of questions about the road ahead. "Is it dangerous out there?" one of them asked. "It can be," Thomas said, "but it can also be beautiful." "How do you know which path to take?" another asked. Thomas looked up at the stars, bright and steady above them. "You listen," he said, "to the land, to the people you meet, and to the part of yourself that knows when something feels right." They listened closely, as if his words carried more than just sound. As the fire crackled and the night deepened, Thomas felt a quiet sense of peace. His life was no longer just about getting from one place to another. It was about the connections made along the way. And somewhere near a river that curved gently through green land, a woman named Nayeli was living her life, teaching children to read the signs of the earth, to respect the ground beneath their feet, and to remember that every path has a story. Thomas knew their lives had moved in different directions, but the moment they shared would always travel with them, like a quiet thread tying two distant points on a very wide map. The world was still big, the road was still long, but Thomas no longer walked it alone. He walked it with understanding, with respect, and with the knowledge that sometimes the greatest gift a person can receive is not something they can hold in their hands. It is a new way of seeing everything around them.